Hi everyone, this is Juliann from the Tracy Branch Library, and today I'm going to be showing you how to finger knit an octopus. He's really cute, right? I learned how to finger knit from my friend in high school, and it's a lot easier than you might think it is. If any of you have made those mini rubber band bracelets, the methods might seem kind of similar. So what you're going to need is a yarn. It's recommended to use a blanket yarn or a chunky yarn, but if you don't have that and you just have that more regular thickness of yarn, I'm going to show you a way to make that work too, don't worry. You will also need a pair of scissors and something for the eyes of your octopus. You don't have to put eyes, you can put one eye, you can do multiple eyes. I like to use buttons. I've also done it where I've used embroidery thread as the eyes and I've just wrapped it around until it's a satisfying eye shape. Embroidery thread's the same kind of stuff that you'd use for your friendship bracelets or anything like that. You could also use another yarn that's a different color and just do the same thing. For this project, you're going to need to use 2 fingers. A lot of people use these 2, but I found myself that I prefer these 2 instead. Go ahead, try them out and see what feels most comfortable for you. You're going to leave a bit of string in your palm as a tail, and you're going to hold on to that and use it to tie off later. Hold it down with your thumb. The yarn is going to go behind your first finger, between the 2, around your second finger to the back, between the 2, and then over in front again. And we're going to keep these up towards more of the middle of our fingers because it's a little hard to move when you get down there. Keep your fingers closer together. You don't want them right next to each other. You don't want them super far apart because that'll mess up with your stitches and make them too loose. You're going to do it again, and as you can see, that's kind of a figure 8 symbol, right? Now you've got 2 on each finger. You're going to take the bottom one and bring it over the top. Bottom over the top. Go ahead and nudge those down a bit. Take your tail. You're going to give it a little tug so it tightens up these back stitches. And go ahead and take a hold of it again. Do another figure 8. I like to hold it with my pinky so it stays in place. Again, go bottom one over the top. Take your tail, give it a pull. And you can already see we've got a bit of a chain going there. At this point, I usually leave it back there because it's easier when it gets longer just to not have to hold it. And you're going to keep going. Figure 8 over and over. Pull the bottom loop over the top one. Give this a tug, it straightens it out and tightens up your stitches so they look more uniform, the same. You're going to keep doing this for a while. It's going to be the length of 2 octopus arms, not just 1 arm. Because you're going to loop this over the yarn ball for the head. So it needs to be as long to cover that and to take the both. So you can see this is what I have for 1 already. And you just kind of guesstimate and see, here's the head, here's how long the arms are. So once you've got as long as you think it needs to be, and you're starting your next one, to judge, you don't need to count or anything. I just pull it along and see if they're about the same length yet. You don't need to be exact or precise. There's no reason to be perfect or perfection because this is mostly just for fun, and when you tie them off, you can arrange them and it's not noticeable if they're a little off or not quite the same. You can try counting to make sure you're doing the same number of stitches. I usually don't because I know I'll lose track and forget where I am or I'll get distracted. So I find it's just as easy for me to just kind of guesstimate the length by comparing the 2. So as you can see, I went a little bit farther. If you want to undo some hoops, you kind of just pull it undone and wrap your fingers back around it. But like I said, you don't need to be precise. When you need to tie off the end, you're going to take your second finger stitch and pull that loop over onto your first finger And then from there, you're gonna take the bottom, just like always, and loop it over. Grab this and pull tight, and it's gonna knot off. See, I'm tugging on this, but this isn't coming undone. Take your scissors, snip, and then you can pull this through and tie another knot if you'd like. You can tie this knot on top of it. I usually pull it through the middle and then I tie these once I cut them off around it as like a second stitch. And then you're just gonna trim the ends. You could always tuck the ends and weave them into it. I always find that they come out eventually and it annoys me, so I don't do that too much. On your end that has your original tail, you're gonna find one of your loops and just go ahead and weave that through till you've got one up here. Put it through the hole and you're gonna do tug, tug, and it ties and knots it off. And then you can trim this one. If you want to weave them in, you're just gonna leave a bit of length here. You're gonna find a stitch and you're just gonna start kind of looping it through it, around, down into the stitching till it kind of vanishes, see? So if you don't have a blanket yarn or a thick chunky kind of yarn, you can use what I always think of as the regular sized yarn. It's the kind that you usually find in the store and that a lot of yarns come in this size of. If you try to make it with just the one strand, you're not gonna get the thickness of the blanket yarn here. It's gonna be too thin and your stitches are gonna be really loose. But there's a way to fix that. You just get another yarn strand. I like to use the two different colors. I think that the Octopus tends to look a little bit cooler if it's different colors, but also it makes it easier to tell your strands apart when you're doing the finger knitting. This is gonna go the exact same way as the blanket yarn does. You're gonna have a tail. You can tie them together. You don't have to though. And then you're just going to do the figure eights like before until you have two. Let's move this a little higher. And you're gonna pull your bottom strand over your top. And that's where it's kind of nice to see. As you can usually tell a little more where they're apart. If these were closer together, if they were all the same color, you might have a harder time telling which is the top set and which is the bottom loop. And you're just gonna do the same as we did. Pulling and tugging, bottom strands over top ones. Here you have to be really careful. If you do pull off the top strands with the bottom, you need to know which are which and get them back into spot. As you can see, it's not quite as thick or quite as obvious, but as you go, they look a little looser. They'll tighten up, I promise. You're just going to do the exact same thing as we did with the others, okay? See? So once you have all four of your arms, you can see all you need to do is the head. I prefer using a yarn ball head. You just start wrapping it kind of over and around itself into a bit of a ball shape. The downside to this is that it does take more yarn than wrapping the yarn around something that's already in a round shape. You can wrap it around a sock, a styrofoam ball, anything that you have on hand that's kind of around the same size. The downside to that is that usually when you wrap the yarn around the sock, for chance, the yarn you've wrapped around it does shift place, and then sometimes you see the sock through it. This way, even if the yarn on the outside shifts, you're still gonna see the same color yarn no matter what. And as you can see, it can get a little slippery, fall out of your hands, but you kind of just grab it and redo what came undone when it fell. And once you get it going, it's a lot easier than starting it. Okay. Once you get to a size that you think maybe will work, go ahead and take one of your arms, drape it over, and kind of see how it compares with the length of the legs. If that looks like a good kind of comparison to length to head, go with it. If you think it needs to be a little bit bigger, just go back to wrapping your yarn ball. Once you've got it to a size that you feel is pretty good, you're just gonna cut off, take this, and you're gonna find a spot to kind of weave it into again. And there's your yarn ball. Now you can use one of the tails you've cut off earlier. Just find a nice long length of one. You can just take your yarn ball, find the middle of your legs, right? And drape it over. Hold it there. Find the middle of another legs, drape that over. And you're going to pinch them under the head like this. Okay. So you're going to take one of your leg strings, you're going to bring it down here, and you're going to wrap it around. Tie a knot, wrap it again, tie a knot until you run out of length. And there you go. You can give the legs a tug to even them out, to pull this a little more flat. And there's an octopus. So as I said earlier, you can use a lot of different things as the eyes for your octopus, or you can just do no eyes. It's entirely up to you. I like to use buttons. I think they look really cool. Kids, make sure if you decide to do anything that does require sewing that you get your parents' permission first, or even their help. These needles are super sharp, and we all want to make sure that we're being very careful when we use them. So once you have your eye, you're going to decide where you want it, how high, how low. You could always do one eye and make it a cyclops. And you're just going to start sticking your needle through where you want your eye. Just give that a snip, and you have your first eye done. So this can be tricky too, because you want to try and get it as close to where it was as you can, and sometimes that's just not working out super great. And there you go. It's got a face. I hope you guys had fun with this fingernet project today, and that you'll have fun making them as much as I have.